Yes. So when we talk about the elementals, and we get the term elementals in the Bible in the New Testament,
Hmm.
and it's talking about the rulers of the earth. It also talks about it as the basic, you know, product of the universe as well. But there's two different applications there. So this elementals is the lowest group of the rebellious hierarchy, so lower than the
Hmm.
demigods. There's four different groups of elementals. I only talk about three of them in the book, but before I get to the three, I'll just remind people there's a fourth one. They're reptilians. They're larger than humans, not as big as giants, and they're called salamanders as the group of elementals, and typically thought to be the ones that people see underground and this and that. They may
So,
be actually perhaps recreated versions of the Nahash, the serpent, before Eden, that had legs, arms, talk, was intelligent, see and
oh
eat,
man, would
right?
not
Or
be
it could be
surprised.
something different, right? I mean, who knows, right? Um, so
Sorry.
it could be that, but they are reptilian, just as there's reptilians in the alien sort of nomenclature of types of peoples in their mythos. So the other three groups, you have three groups of little people. There's one that gets mixed in with them. I might touch on them at the end just to make a clarification. But
Hmm.
the three groups are good looking ones, mischievous ones, and
Hmm.
ugly ones. So in these groups, you have good looking ones, let's say like a Tinkerbell type of fairy, right? Um, you have mischievous ones like leprechauns, right?
Hmm.
And pixies, and there's all sorts of other ones. And you can do a whole show just on the fairies. So it's that many types and things
Oh,
like that. There are all, and I talked about the ugly ones, and they're all recorded in polytheist history, religions, mythology as being created by the gods through sexual
mm,
behavior. Although some people speculate they were probably might have been created um, from DNA manipulation or something like that. So, but as it comes down, they're another sexual created product of angels. And so they would have additional powers as well, just sort of based on that. But they were at the lowest level, so they would receive the lowest level, and they weren't as large. So there's you can see sort of the hierarchy.
hmm.
So the mischievous ones, they're and none of these are really friends of humankind, but they do horrible things to humankind, the mischievous ones. But it's the ugly ones that really sort of highlight fairy domain, the portals, and things like that. Not that these other ones don't come through and aren't associated with other interesting things like Bigfoot and Sasquatch, but
Yeah, I want.
within the ugly nature of the elementals, you have like the dwarves, and just as they're depicted in the Lord of the Rings, they lived in the earth and they made and manufactured weapons for the gods and the demigods. And so each one of these little people had a specific role in their creation. And so you've got other, ugly ones like trolls that are under a bridge or sometimes guard portals, as portals are sometimes under a bridge. You also have the gnomes, and the gnomes are a very interesting one because they tended, and it's kind of the root is rooted in Gnosticism and knowledge, right? As you take that back to its Greek etymology. And so the gnomes were responsible for the genealogies, the history, and the religion and the history, and were responsible for technology. So you have a group of the gnomes that are known as the Greys. And these
Mm.
Greys come through fairy portals, fairy domens, fairy shays, fairy mounds, all different words, fairy lakes, all known for locations of portals in their flying machines, spaceships. They kidnap people, do sexual experimentation on them, are looking to regenerate their DNA, and then return the people, and they have no memory of what happened except if they're under some sort of hypnosis or some
Hmm.
sort of ritual state of trance. So I put a couple descriptions in my book about them, and they are
Excuse me.
identical in the way they look and what they do to the gray aliens. And of
Mm.
course, the gray aliens have great technology and power. So again,
Mhm.
that's a reflection. And we also don't know what other additional powers that they have, but they also have, all through fairy culture and mythos, this ability to do magic, to be invisible, to disappear, to
Mhm.
curse people, to hurt people, to do things to the land. They have additional power. They're recreating the hive mind, right?
Mhm.
It's a technology generated ability. So in the occult belief system, and particularly with the LB of the elven bloodline, which is a fairy bloodline and a dragon bloodline, they believe in the hive mind. And the hive mind is something that they communicate telepathically, and it was inherited and allowed them to work together in like
So-
mind to do things that they would not be otherwise capable of doing, and more powerful if they were standing together with that one kind of mind and amassing that power to be used. And what's interesting about that, as you sort of take that back to the Bible, the word like mind is used. And what's really scary is it's used in the time of the end with the 10 kings in the book of Revelation,
Yeah.
who with one mind or one like mind hand their power over to
Oh.
Antichrist.
Oh my gosh. Oh
Now,
jeez.
what's also really interesting about that hive mind, and it's they believe in it that it is, comes from the whole hive system and the queen bee who, passes on from generation to generation and creates the hive and all of the nourishment thereof. That's like the mother goddess, the queen uh, Sophia, I would call it, just
Mhm.
as philosophy comes from the love of Sophia, the love of wisdom. Um, and what's really interesting about all of that is that's kind of like in their idealistic world how they would set up a society that was all sort of telepathic, working as one
Mhm.
mind, which is kind of what the mark of the beast is really kind of doing, right? Is
Yeah.
bringing that all together in a modern teraphim, a talking idol,
Mhm.
which a teraphim shows up in the Bible. When the Israelites went into the covenant land and God said he would deliver them up for them, one of the main things that God did was send the hornets to deliver up the hive mind, be like and be imagery of the Anjou and other occult um, coats of arms and things like that, because the hornet is the natural enemy of the bee. So it
Mm.
disorientated it, discomfited them in ways that they could not handle, and they would turn on themselves. They would be in complete panic. They didn't know how to do things when they weren't in that hive mind state, and it was just set it up for the Israelites to come along and take off their head and move on to the next one. That it also reflects the levels of power. So when you
Mm.
have these idols that could speak that was wood and stone, I think that might be the fallen angels with a higher level of power. Demons need an oikotarian. That's that dwelling place for the
Mhm.
spirit. And typically we understand that as the soul and the body of something living. It could be a human or it could be an animal, just as we see Legion go into the pigs
Yeah.
in the New Testament. Not that they want to stay there because it's obviously not a good oikotarian for them. But there's a lot of thought that if you expand on this talking teraphim idol, that the end time beast image is going to be, that could be populated by demons operating it,
Mhm.
or it could be actually AI doing it, but it could be a
Mm.
combination of both. And that the more we go into this technology of AI and quantum computing, the more the scientists, Elon Musk, other people are talking about that they're communicating with these beings. Some say it's Metatron. Some they have different names. So there's probably several. Metatron comes out of the third book of Enoch as being Enoch, son of Cain, who reached God level angelic level through his knowledge. So
That's
again,
crazy.
this could be an allegory or
Mhm.
as to what they're talking about, but this is the same celestial white masters. It is the great white brotherhood. It is mostly demons. Yes, there could be some angels. I think that the technology is creating that Oikatarian to house them.
Mm.
But it's not where most of them want to be because it's still not that type
Yeah.
of body that they had. It's still not that type of interaction. So look for some sort of cloned individual, body or transhuman clone body combination, and maybe some things that may even look like what's in Revelation 9 in that 200 million man war.